So based on some of the replies I have received since beginning the ET Contact series, this may be the most important video I've done to date. A lot of comments and replies coming and people sharing with me their fears about going out of body. In general, they're all related in some way, shape, or form with what I've been talking about. And so I want to tell you two things today. My out-of-body experiences have gone a long way in preparing me for what I'm currently experiencing. They've gone a long way in preparing me to meet the ET races. And in this regard, I want to tell you two things. One, there's absolutely nothing out there nothing let that sink in for a moment because it's important. At a foundational level, there's nothing out there. Nothing. The second thing I want you to know is by expanding your consciousness out into the wider reality, only one thing is going to essentially happen, and that is that the sense of who you are is going to grow. The sense of who you are is going to expand to be a lot more than what you're visually aware of as you hear in the physical reality. That's it. That's it. And now about these two things, let's go into a little detail. These are two things that I have learned from my out-of-body experiences. Let me say, these are two things that I am in the very baby stages of learning from my out-of-body experiences. And although I have experience that tells me this is so, that these things are true, it hasn't fully seeped into my awareness and been fully integrated into my system yet, to the point that I experience no fear at all myself when experiencing things. Of course I do. These are things that I'm just now beginning to glean, that I'm just now beginning to let fully in, and that are integrating through my system with the help of my inner layers, my inner team, as I like to call them, as rapidly as is possible, without breaking or shattering this physical consciousness and body system. All right, so let's dive into one. There's nothing out there. Nothing. When I first began having out-of-body experiences, the energies that were coming into my field and quite literally were so strong that they were pulling me out of body. When this first began happening, I was landing in the void. So my very first experiences, some of my very first experiences, pulled me out and into the void. Now, those of us who have this experience are highly blessed, because this is an important thing to begin grasping at the beginning. That's all there is. Here and out there, that's all there is. Void. Nothing. This big blacker than blackness, which isn't the greatest way to say it, but many people will be able to relate to it. But all there is void. And somehow, in the middle of this void, we learn to begin perceiving. But the perceiving, it happens within this void, within this nothingness, within this absolute blackness. So I'd be pulled out of body and I would land in this void. And it was an amazing experience for me because it's an experience of zero weight, zero stress. Zero confinement. And, I'd be there like, what is this? You're looking around and I'm still aware of myself. My consciousness still is, but there is nothing here being perceived. Nothing. I'm aware of the void, of the nothingness, of the blackness. But there's nothing being perceived in it. But as I would sit here, I would begin perceiving something. Generally, for me at the beginning, it was a light that would just flash out at me. And when that happens, in the middle of this void, when there is nothing else, it's very clear what comes up in your awareness, what comes up in your mind. And, the first thing in my mind was, what was that? And the moment I asked that, it got answered. I would be, moved more closely to it to get a better look, one. And as I moved closer and I began seeing other visual appearances, in the same way you might if you were getting closer and closer, say in outer space to the Earth, what you would see would begin changing. At first you see a bright star perhaps, but you get closer and pretty soon you see this blue world. And you come in closer and then you may see the lines down here on the ground, and you come in closer and you start seeing buildings and people. And it's just like this. And because of this experience, I got to see how visual environments are created through my own curiosity, through my own questions, through my own energy. Okay, but the most important thing is that I got to realize, first off, that there was nothing. And that this nothing is the, center of everything. Within it, everything we perceive begins to take place. And another thing that began seeping in, based on this experience, was that all there is to what we call reality, visual reality, is my perceiving. So it's not like the worlds that I came to see were out there. There's nothing out there. What I began to experience as a visual environment was my very own perceiving. I was coming up with that, and not on my own. Myself and the inner layers, all the way back in towards source, that help compose my total being, together came up with this. Whatever visual environment did arise. And so this can go a long way to putting you at ease, in your experiences, whether they be here in physical reality or out in the wider reality. Is that it's you, along with the inner layers of your being, all the way in towards source, whatever that is creating the visual environment and the situations and circumstances that are happening in it that you're moving into relationship with and experiencing. See, nothing outside yourself, and that really goes a long way to putting me at ease. I know that as soon as I begin perceiving in a way that's not to my benefit, that I can change it very rapidly, because I know that it's my own perceiving, through the layers that's coming up with what's happening. Okay, so that's one, and I'm going to set that down for just a moment. But I will just say one more time to really let it seep in. There's nothing out there. Nothing. There's nothing that's already going on. There's nothing out there. You come up with it, and as your inner layers come up with it, the visual environments arise. That's just freaking mind-blowing. I mean, because sometimes you can hear these things, you'll hear people relaying them, but when you go out there and you find that out for yourself through your own experiences, and then begin experiencing it, and even applying the knowledge in your visual realities in a way that actually gives you feedback that, this is right, this is true, then yeah, it's just mind-blowing on so many levels. Okay, we're going to set that one down. We're going to go into two. The only thing that's going to essentially happen by going out there into the wider reality is the sense of who you are is going to begin growing. You are going to find out you're a whole lot more than what you visually see here in this physical reality. Just you. That's all you're ever going to come across. But you are going to discover that there are many layers to you, and you're going to begin finding out what those layers are. And even visually, through many of them, who these layers are. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. You don't want to be afraid of this. It's incredible. Heart racing at times for me. You've heard me say it many times, most especially when I'm in the layers very close to my physical layer reality. The ones further out are experienced a bit differently, and they're enough away from my home turf to help me feel a bit more safe. When it comes right into my home turf, that's real close to home. That's sometimes it's too close for comfort. But those layers that are closest to the physical, they do need to be met, and they do need to be moved through in an unobstructed way. And by unobstructed way, I mean dissipating the fear that happens through that terrain as you happen to be coming into contact and meeting those layers. It's the layers that are closest to the physical reality that represent I'll just continue calling it the ET races. And there's multiple situations and events that will be created for us each uniquely and independently, as we come through these territories. And there's a lot being done as we do this too. It's not just about meeting the rest of yourself and integrating with the rest of yourself. It's also about why you came here to this physical reality system at this point in time, as time is recorded in this physical reality system. Now, one of the things I know that I'm doing myself is transmuting layers of fear in and around the area of this shift that's happening on our planet, and also the transmutation that is occurring in many here on the planet of their physical body systems. So This is why I'm wanting to stay conscious and meet the beings who are coming here to my room, who are working on this particular physical body system at this time, because that's part of my job. That is an assignment that I have consciously agreed to. In order to transmute the fear in and around this particular event. Now, as we do this, as I do this, and as others do this, it gets easier and easier for the rest that are going to be doing it, for the ones coming up on the wave behind them. Until it's all done. Until it's all done. But in regard to the fact that essentially the only thing that's going to happen when you go out into the wider reality is who you are is going to start growing. Now, this has to do also with, I'm sort of shifting gears in an odd sort of way here, but there's something that I need to put through about this. Now, this is about what many here on the planet at this time are calling the shift of the collective consciousness of humanity as a whole. And what this is. What the shift is a shift out of objective, another word for which is physical reality, and into subjective reality. And there's a lot of confusion about what a purely subjective reality is. So I will tell you what happens for me and what I experience when my consciousness expands into the etheric and astral. What begins happening is the space between me and everything goes away. When I first started waking up in my dreams, many of you will be able to relate to this. When I first started waking up in my dreams, it was very clear to me that the environment I was in, everything I was seeing all around me was my mind. I was in my mind, and I consciously knew I was in my mind. And so I knew that everything that I was seeing was me. It was my mind. And this is how it begins seeping in. There is no other. There's me, and the visual environment is taking place in mind. My mind. We all have our own independent data stream that we call reality. It looks like we're in a collective reality, but the words private and collective begin taking on a whole new meaning when you begin experiencing the wider reality. So, as far as the subjective reality, the astral, the subconscious, what I also refer to as the higher self, what it is pure subjectivity. And a subjective reality is a reality not that I see my way and others see their way. A purely subjective reality is a reality in which you are the only one there. It's subjective because you're the only one there. You are all there is to it. Again, you and the many layers that help compose you is all that's there. And this slowly becomes known as you begin having the experiences of the consciousness going out more and more. When you get back to the physical reality, you'll find that it integrates, that it seeps in and integrates, at a particular pace. And as that begins happening, here I find my physical reality is no longer my physical reality, but an astral reality. Excuse me. that started happening some time ago, because I realize now that there is nothing out there. There is not an objective world out there in which things are happening. There's nothing. Within the nothing, I began perceiving. What I'm experiencing here now, I know to be my own perceiving. Nothing is outside of that perceiving. And therefore, the object perceived reality, the objective reality, the physically experienced reality is dissipating for me. It happens, more and more. It's fascinating. But the key thing is I never was in a physical reality. I was within some particular pattern of constraints that allowed me to experience it that way, but those constraints are now giving way based on my non-physical experience out in the wider reality. When I get back here, less and less that goes away. More and more, it's just seeping into right here where I am, and I'm finding that I'm no longer in a physical terrain. I'm shifting out of it from right here. And I can see where this is going, or where the potentiality of it is taking me. I can see that as this begins seeping into my awareness fully and through the body system fully, I can and will dematerialize from this reality to the point where those here in the physical reality will no longer be able to see me, just like they cannot see those in the etheric reality bandwidth here now. So where this applies to the beings that come into my room at night when my consciousness expands out into the etheric version of my room here, fits in. These are the things that are helping me do this. These are the awarenesses, from my own experiences that are here now helping me get through this experience of meeting the ET races, those here in particular who are assisting with my own awakening without fear. There was fear at first, but through the experience, through these things happening, my fear is being transmuted. The fear lessens, and as the fear lessens, the love energy comes through, and it helps me see more, it helps me experience more, it helps me get through this space. Any moment, I will be able to meet these ones here and tell you more about them, and I'm really looking forward to doing this, because this is when it gets really exciting. This is when it gets really pertinent, when I can tell you something actual, something real, something that in lessening my fear, my vision clarified, and I was able to perceive with absolute accuracy. This is just, any minute, any minute. I look forward to coming back soon to relay more